Thank you for tuning into Bethel, BHG TV. Like, share, and subscribe. Now our host, Pastor Johnson.
All right. Bethel, BHG TV. The Israel of God. Look at the moderators. Look at the moderators coming in tonight. Brother Drake Middleton, moderator. Landon Johnson, David East, Brian Johnson, moderators just coming in tonight. Wow, 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 wow. So glad to have all of you all here tonight. Woo! I love Bible study. Yes. Let's open this thing up tonight. Y'all know what we're doing. Let's open it up tonight. All right. Sister Barbara Benton, you love Yah in the house. All of you all are here tonight. Let's get this thing going tonight because I want to, we're going to try to make these as to the point as possible because we want you to be able to share this lesson with others, and we're going to get right into it without any hesitation. Of course, I'm your teacher tonight, the Israel of God, Pastor Johnson from the Bethel House of God class right here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Love being in Florida. It's, 75 degrees today, maybe 80. And here it is in the month of December. This is one of the reasons why I moved to South Florida, to be able to have this type of weather, and it's beautiful. This is just what it's about. Nighttime, it's cold, and every now and then I go outside and just sit out there at nighttime and just have a good time. And this is what it's about, brothers and sisters, studying and meditating on the Word. As David says, that Word, if I hear it in my heart, sometimes we want to just go out there and just meditate on His Word. Sister Kimberly Whitaker, how are you doing, my sister? We need to get started with this lesson. Psalms 111, verse 10. The beginning of wisdom is to fear God and keep His commandments. That's what we have to do. A good understanding have all they that keep His commandments. His praise endureth forever. So let's start this lesson off tonight. This is part 2 of this series, and last night we left off talking about the Christmas tree. And let me just say this, this is one of these events, brothers and sisters, where people get hyped up into this, and it's difficult to educate people because they're caught up in the moments of the celebrations, and the celebrations really camouflage. Satan has camouflaged himself that this is a pagan holiday around the celebration of the holiday. But this holiday is all about pagan rituals. And one of the things that we've done is we've put together short clips on this particular video, short clips, so that you can see what others are teaching about it. Now, I want to let you know, I'm not going to be able to play anything like I did last night when I went to Google and I wanted to read something, and then there was a video in there because I got a strike on it. So I'm only going to have to stick with the video that I'm showing you tonight because we have used that many times. So I'm going to stick with that. But I want to just educate you that the Christmas tree has a very strong root of paganism. It's very deep rooted. And as Jeremiah warned the people in the 10th chapter of his book, for Israel not to learn the way of the heathen. We covered that last night. And because the customs of the people are vain. Now, this is important. We look at how he says the customs of the people. Remember when Paul was in trouble and he says, I've done nothing against the customs of our fathers. So we taught that the other night, and what the customs of our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were. But let me just tell you something. The customs of our fathers was not Christmas. The customs of Jesus was not Christmas. Even after the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus, you won't find where any apostle or disciple observed Christmas, celebrating the birth of Jesus. You won't find that, okay? So we wanted to take you back to hit the roots of some of this stuff so you can understand. So we're going to pick it up where we left it off at last night, dealing with the Christmas tree and the mistletoe and how the Christmas tree came in the early 1400s, okay? That's when the Christmas tree came in. And it got commingled with the celebration of the winter solstice. All right, so let's pick that up and let's go check it out.
The earliest evidence we have of evergreens being brought into the houses is early folklore. It's from the Middle Ages. We just know that people have been taking evergreen branches, for example, of evergreens, mistletoe, juniper, holly, or other pine tree branches into the houses during. It has been important to put it into the houses as a way of protection, warding off evil, and as a symbol of life, basically, during this time of death and darkness.
But the first notion of an evergreen tree-like object comes from the late 1400s. It's a pole stuck up outside, decorated with evergreen branches. And we know of one, at least one in London, and two in the Baltic area, Estonia and Latvia, where German merchants had set up trading posts. Now, as to who is the first, it's a heated topic in Estonia and Latvia.
The story of the Christmas tree is documented in the Brotherhood of Blackheads Chronicles from the year 1509-1510, written in the Old German language. According to the chronicles, logs were burned during the winter solstice in pagan traditions, and it's likely that the first Christmas tree was originally meant to be set on fire at Town Hall Square in Riga.
Riga claims to have put up the first ever Christmas tree in this very town square right here in the year 1510, it says on the ground. This is obviously a big tourist attraction because, Christmas trees are European-wide tradition. Everyone knows about them. Lots of tourists have come along and taken their photo with this. The only issue is that Estonia, where I've just come from, also claims to have put up the first Christmas tree in 1441 in Tallinn Town Square by the Brotherhood of Blackheads Merchant Association.
In the 1500s, say, half a century or so later, people are moving the trees inside. This happens in Germany. They will go out into the forest and lop the top off an evergreen tree. They'll bring it inside and they'll hang it upside down from the ceiling. By the late 1500s, people start cutting down the whole tree. and bringing it inside and setting it, we would say, right side up.
It becomes a great fashion across Germany in the 17th, 18th centuries, and German refugees fleeing from Napoleon bring it to England the 1790s, 1800s. And it becomes an English fashion, largely because of one very influential German. He's Prince Albert, Queen Victoria's husband, who introduces it to the royal family in the 1840s. And that's when it becomes a pretty well universal tradition.
But what I think is interesting is that when this Yule tree tradition came or returned from the south, then lots of Christians were upset about it because they thought it was a pagan tradition.
Now notice this presenter said that it was introduced, but then she says it returned. And because this Christmas tree is nothing new. This goes back to the days of the Babylonian era. It was pagan in all of its practices. Pagan. So it left, it returned, and this is the same practice that Jeremiah warned the people about. And as she said, that the early so-called Christians got upset about it because it was being brought back and introduced back. It was not something that everybody was willing to accept. But not on December the 25th, 2022, 90% of the churches that are mainstream Christian and apologetic will have a Christmas tree celebrating the winter solstice on December the 25th, claiming it to be the birth of Jesus with the Christmas tree right inside. Let us keep going.
Trees, especially evergreen trees, are very important in ancient symbolism. A lot of northern pagan peoples have the idea of one enormous tree that connects all the levels of the world, from the top of the sky through to the underworld.
In scientific thought, we always ignore the irregular, the exception to the rule. In magical thought, it's the reverse. The ordinary doesn't attract attention. The unusual does. So because the tree remains green when all other trees are dead, this gives special significance to the evergreen tree. What's ever unusual is magical and powerful. Presbyterians don't realize today that the Reformed churches in the Reformation suppressed Christmas celebrations as well because they understood it was pagan.
If we're saying that we're celebrating his birth, then why is everything that we're doing all about us and our family and
what we want to do?
What we want to do?
Very good question. Why is, if we're celebrating the birth of Christ,
a perfect theological solution.
why all this other stuff?
God brings us everything good, so why not say to the children, the baby Jesus, the Christ child, das Christkindl, le petit Jésus, has brought you this.
So having Santa bring gifts and having the Christ child bring gifts is like, that's a big issue. People will have stickers, in really traditional areas, they'll have stickers in their windows with a slash through Santa Claus or the Christmas man saying, no Weihnachtsmann here.
And the ironic thing is, I think it was in Germany they came up with the Christkindl term, which means Christ child. Because they were trying to kind of turn the focus back to Jesus to say, he's the real giver of gifts. And our greatest gift was his own life, giving himself. But it's ironic because I always thought that term meant, I thought it was synonymous with St. Nicholas, but it actually means Christ child.
Christmas goes into a decline in England and the English-speaking world after King Charles II comes back to power in 1660 and the Puritans are booted out. People have lost the taste for Christmas in that period, or at least to say the upper class seems to have lost its taste for Christmas. Christmas becomes associated with peasants, the lower classes, the countryside. Over the next 150 years, by 1800, both in England and in American colonies, particularly in northeastern America, Christmas has turned into an outdoor New Year's Eve bash. It's associated with adults, alcohol, making a nuisance of yourself, jostling prosperous citizens off the sidewalk, burning down churches belonging to African Americans, beating up immigrants, all the kind of stuff you like to do if you're a thug on New Year's Eve. So that's what Christmas is associated with.
And here's the thing. You got the churches today in the black community, and I'm just making mention of that because of what he indicated, that the way they celebrated it at that time. A lot of people don't know that. You see? But yet you participate in this that has nothing to do with the birth of Christ, but yet you participate in it and you jumped onto the wagon and you become mesmerized by the holiday, not knowing that at a particular time it was about burning your church. Let's go back to that. So you can hear this. I want to go back too far. All right, I think we can pick it up here.
New Year's Eve bash. It's associated with adults, alcohol, making a nuisance of yourself, jostling prosperous citizens off the sidewalk, burning down churches belonging to African Americans, beating up immigrants, all the kind of stuff you like to do if you're a thug on New Year's Eve. So that's what Christmas is associated with. You look at some of the illustrations in England at that time period, and does not seem to be a time of religion or generosity.
Why was Christmas once illegal in America?
Dang.
You could even be fined for celebrating it.
Oh, wow. Whoa. I have no idea. Would it have been, so I don't know what Christmas was like before like the 1900s. So I'm not really like, would that have been just, would that have to do with the paganism, or would that have to do with maybe the something? I don't know. Well, could you tell me?
You think? Of course. Every bit to do with paganism. It was banned in America
in northeastern United States. It was outlawed. The states settled by the Puritans, like Connecticut, Massachusetts, didn't like Christmas, didn't want to have anything to do with it. And apparently it was right until the 1870s that Christmas Day was a school day, a work day.
Yeah, well, the Puritans were real killjoys.
Yeah, they were much fun.
If you go to the American Antiquarian Society, there'll be sermons against the evils of Christmas. The colony records of Massachusetts and the colony records of Connecticut, you can find the laws right there. They thought Christmas was an immoral holiday.
If you were in America, in Boston in 1810, Christmas was ignored. Boston was overwhelmingly Protestant, and it was just a normal day.
Okay. Be it ordained that the nativity of Christ be no longer observed within this kingdom
From
of England.
the mid-1640s to 1660, Christmas is officially outlawed. Businesses had to be open on Christmas. If you shut down on Christmas, you were in trouble. The Sheriff of London would go around and pull down greenery that he saw on the streets. Christmas services were broken up by the police, people thrown in jail. So Christmas carols were silent, Christmas services silent, Christmas festivities were silent for those periods.
Not today, because everything is going to be closed. I just want you to see how things evolved, because people became more rooted in the practice that has nothing to do with Jesus. So now it is an acceptable practice. And if you don't do it, something's wrong with you. But back in the early 1860s and 70s, if you did do it, something was wrong with you. You see how things have just flip-flopped? Because this is the work of Satan, the dragon who gave authority to Rome. Let's keep going.
In both England and northeastern United States.
I think the first time it crossed my mind that there was something wrong was maybe when I was about 5. If we're celebrating Christ's birth, if it's his birthday party, why is Santa in the foreground?
That's a good question. Because it has nothing to do with the birth
Santa
of
Claus.
Jesus.
Who the heck is Santa Claus? Santa Claus is a bastardization of the Dutch Sinterklaas, Saint Nicholas. So we can tell that folk memory has preserved it because there is it's only oral. So we have Sandy Claw, Sandy Claus, Sinterklaas, Santa Claus, all one word.
This will sound rather unusual, but
I got to add another one in there. How about Satan's claws? Satan's claws. That's the best way to put it. Satan's claws.
in fact, Santa Claus is really just a grossly distorted version of the pagan god Odin. He is the only Norse god routinely depicted as old.
There was still that connection where people were making between paganism, Yule and Christmas, so that might be part of it, is making Saint Nick kind of look like Odin a little bit. But do keep in mind that's just a theory, so.
St. Nicholas walks or rides a white horse in most parts of Europe.
And the 8 flying reindeer, those probably had their roots in Odin's flying 8-legged horse.
Now this is pagan, where they would celebrate Odin coming down on his horse, and they would put little shoes out with food in it for the horse, and Odin as a thanks would put, candy or some kind of treats in that shoe and replace, the hay or whatever they had put there for the horse.
Sometime around 1200, some Catholic nuns in an orphanage put a little gift in the shoes of their children that they're caring for on the eve of St. Nicholas Day. So the evening of December 5th. And kids wake up and there's something lovely and they say, St. Nicholas brought that. Well, it just seems like such a great idea. It spreads all across Europe. The real magic happens in a poem that appears in 1821 called A Children's Friend. This is a poem about the arrival on Christmas Eve of a figure called Santa Claus. And he's not wearing a bishop's outfit, he's wearing a long robe trimmed in fur. Nobody knows who wrote this, but this is a guy who started a revolution. The next year, one of these New York aristocrats that wants to domesticate Christmas tells to his family the poem that we know is The Night Before Christmas. And he's obviously read A Children's Friend because he comes down the chimney, clothed all in fur, except this time he's not a full-sized adult, he is some dwarfish figure, small enough to fit down a chimney.
Now Santa Claus enters the house through the chimney and leaves that way, and people miss the significance. In traditional lore, the sorcerer, the witch, the demon does not enter by the door. Your friend, an ordinary safe person, comes by the door. The thief enters by the window. Witches, sorcerers, demons enter through the chimney. And
you brothers and sisters, you can't make this up. You can't make this up. This is something that when you go into the history of how things evolved or returned. I want you to hear this, because you're not going to get this on a Sunday, especially this year on December the 25th, the day that everybody will be celebrating the birth of Christ that doesn't exist in the Bible. You're not. This information will not be the Sunday school Bible study lesson on that day. This is good information. Let's keep going.
This old Santa Claus version, again, is a demonized version of Odin. He climbs down the chimney.
In this poem, there's no long black birchen rod. There's no horse manure in the stocking. There's no switches. This is a guy of whom you don't have to be afraid. So this notion of a grandfatherly, magical gift bringer who comes on December 24th in a reindeer-powered sleigh goes viral.
The crowd yelled, "There's the Elmos," and they rushed us.
So here we go, present day Christmas tree.
I think there comes a point where the roots are so far gone that the present meaning doesn't carry the pagan connotation anymore.
Now she's lighting some sage.
I tend to follow more of a Wiccan-based paganism, but there are many different forms and types of paganism.
I personally celebrate Yule on the 23rd of December usually, just to kind of carry it on a little bit to join in with my family's festivities.
So we'll start with the gold candle and we'll turn towards the east. Grandmother,
I want y'all to
I find it amusing when people say put Christ back in Christmas, because if you are Christian and you really do want to follow, the teachings of Jesus, then yeah, it probably doesn't make much sense to have all of these kind of, pagan things that represent fertility, because that's not really about the birth of Jesus.
Some people say it's not likely that the Christians would have wanted to take a pagan festival and make it Christian. On the other hand, they do appear to have done so. So I think one needs to find some other way of explaining what's going on.
Right. So if you go to the Vatican today, you'll be surprised to find full mosaics from pagan temples just in the church.
In the middle of the square is this giant obelisk there. That's not even a Roman thing, that's an Egyptian solar deity monument. It's created by the Egyptians to honor their sun god Ra.
There was a temple to Minerva. That later got converted into a church.
That's right.
And its modern name, the name of the church is Santa Maria sopra Minerva, which means on top of Minerva.
All of these churches were pagan. Look at this. All of these churches, all of them pagan. This is what the information we're getting. Pagan.
The early Christians took on from paganism the shape of their churches, decorations like statues and hangings and altars and cloths, and a great many festivals, especially to those connected to obvious turning points of the year like midwinter and midsummer.
I tend to celebrate the 8 holidays most commonly associated with Wicca, and those are all based around the movement of the sun and the seasons. So the winter solstice Yule, or the summer solstice Litha, and then the 2 equinoxes where day and night are equal. And in the fall, the autumnal equinox would be Mabon, the vernal equinox would be Ostara. And then you have 4 points in between. So that's how you make the 8 holidays, which are all about recognizing those changes in the seasons.
Outside Christmas, there are plenty of synchronizations of pagan with later Christian festivals. May Day becomes the feast of the Apostles, Philip and James. Midsummer becomes the feast of John the Baptist. What we now call Halloween, the great pagan festival that opened winter, becomes the feast of All Saints and All Souls, and so you go on round the year.
Yep. Comparing Christian calendar with the pagan one, it is impossible not to be struck by the great concordance between the two. It's impossible not to connect the two. Historians are telling you this. Professors are telling you this. It has nothing to do with the birth of Jesus. Nothing. Check this out.
Is it a sin to celebrate Christmas?
I like this question.
I don't think so, no. It's a joyous celebration. I mean, you're celebrating the birth of Jesus.
Good question.
Celebration. I mean, you're celebrating.
It's a very good question. Listen to this.
Is it a sin to celebrate Christmas?
I don't think so, no. It's a joyous celebration. I mean, you're celebrating the birth of Jesus.
No, but I don't know why. I mean, I don't know.
Is it a sin to celebrate Christmas?
Good question.
So what Christianity has done over the centuries is to take stuff from the surroundings and tame it, Christianize it. So we don't have human sacrifices anymore. We consider that bad manners, but we have the Yule log. You know, we don't do druidic stuff, but we have the mistletoe. You know, we're not dancing naked in the streets, but we are giving little presents, like at Callan's, to kids.
For people that want to just, you know, say that it doesn't come from pagan origins, my opinion on that is, well, you're just turning a blind eye to what history has told us. I mean, these trends, these stories, this is scholars, the scholarly work that has been done. I like to look at Robert Weber, whose Institute of Christian Worship series is pretty much my go-to source. I mean, he documents these origins. It's there. Secular historians document these things. When we deny that these origins exist, we actually do disservice to Christianity's, and what I would actually say or argue, we do disservice to Christian intellect. And then we end up just coming across as these sort of dumb fundamentalists, and that's not helpful.
I want to rewind what this guy said, because this week when we were on the radio, the pastor called and says, you know that the birth of Jesus is not in the scriptures, the date that he was born on. You know it. Why would you ask a question like that? I asked a question like that because that's what's being taught. Let me just play a little bit of that. Go back to that for a second. Here we go.
Disservice to Christianity's.
Yeah, he said you do a disservice. Here we go.
I mean, he documents these origins. It's there. Secular historians document these things. When we deny that these origins...
Okay, Drew says, Pastor Johnson, can you post a link to this video? This is a video that I put together. So this video came from several videos and we put it together, okay? So the link is, you're watching it. But maybe what I'll do is one night, I got another video on Christmas. I'll play both videos back to back so you could have it. Okay, here we go.
Actually do disservice to Christianity's, in what I would actually say or argue, we do disservice to Christian intellect. And then we end up just coming across as these sort of dumb fundamentalists, and that's not helpful.
This is an important point. 19th century scholars discovered that rituals outlive beliefs. So what happens is the ritual continues, but we forget why we're doing it. And then we invent an explanation. And the 19th century scholars called this myth, to explain why we're doing something. You could also call it a rationalization.
What we've both come to realize is that Christmas is something where you're literally saying that this is for me and I'm worshiping you, I'm celebrating you in this way. I'm not celebrating him by saying today's Friday. You know what I mean? Right? So it's like, I think it makes a big difference when you're actually doing something for him. Exactly.
They that worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. John
what really is the bottom line for me is Deuteronomy chapter 12, not worshiping God the way we see other people worship their gods.
There we go.
That in itself is enough to not celebrate Christmas, knowing that Christmas is not in the Bible and taking that scripture.
I would ask, where in scripture do we find that, you know, the Father redeemed anything from a pagan god's worship and redeemed it for himself? I don't see that anywhere in scripture.
I would.
And you don't, and you won't find it, because we don't find this pagan practice. And in fact, how to do Christmas and get all the information that I'm getting for you now, you can't get this from the scriptures other than Jeremiah being told to warn the people about the Christmas tree. But they didn't, nowhere in the Bible do you find these ritual practices where people are getting together to celebrate the birth of Jesus. It's not in the Bible. So when we show even this lesson about 5 or 6 years ago, everybody would have been not wanting to watch it. But this is some good stuff, brothers and sisters. Very good stuff. Listen on.
It's really worth the risk if the date itself, December 25, was chosen because of some proximity to some kind of pagan festival. Let's just take it and sanctify and make the most of it, because Christ is worthy to be celebrated in his birth.
This is a focus group that they put
So each
together.
time that you are presented with an image, imagine that the logo and branding are being proposed for use on your church. So if you're ready, let's begin. So this one is the triple goddess. The moon is the symbol of the goddess and its 3 phases: waxing, full, and waning.
I love to look over that lady's face. Listen, she's just totally... She's just confused. Listen to this.
So if you're ready, let's begin. So this one is the triple goddess. The moon is the symbol of the goddess and its 3 phases: waxing, full, and waning.
This leaves me waning.
Definitely. So when asked if these pagan things could be redeemed, here's the
If you're
action.
being redeemed from something, you don't bring it with you.
Let me go back to that. When they were asked if these pagan practices that they do, if this could be redeemed, this is what the reaction was. Listen to this.
If you're being redeemed from something, you don't bring it with you. Okay? I can change, but I shouldn't be still drinking, carousing, and doing all that stuff. Bringing the symbol of what it was with you, and then having to say, oh, but it's been redefined, I think misses the point.
but the scriptures are very clear that we're not supposed to be mixing the holy with the unholy, right? And so just because something is tradition does not mean that it's right. There's a lot of things that are tradition.
What the different prophets were told to do with the symbols of Baal or Dagon or any of the other gods they ran into, they were to burn them, destroy them, not incorporate them. And that, I think, would be the foundation I would use. Even though that's an Old Testament example, I still believe that it's more true.
If we're going to take that legalistic approach to Christmas, then we're going to have to rethink a whole lot of things. And my personal opinion is I reject that interpretation that says because Deuteronomy said this, we shouldn't do that. Deuteronomy says a lot of things. So am I moderate? Am I, bordering on the edge of heresy? You be the judge.
So he decided to take a different approach. He knows this. He sounds like the typical modern day pastor. They know you can't do Christmas. They know you shouldn't do Christmas. But this is his outlook on it. Just because you can connect a Christmas tree to Jeremiah the 10th chapter, and it has nothing to do with Jeremiah the 10th chapter, so we shouldn't do it. Well, where did it come from? It's the same tree, the same practice. Same one. You just Christianize it. Listen to this.
Approach to Christmas, then we're going to have to rethink a whole lot of things. And my personal opinion is I reject that interpretation that says because Deuteronomy said this, we shouldn't do that. Deuteronomy says a lot of things. So am I moderate? Am I, bordering on the edge of heresy? You be the judge.
Well, you be the judge.
I think everything should be tested, and every person needs to test everything that they see, and the Word of God is the best way to test everything that you see. Instead of observing Christmas, we've switched to observing the feast days. Sukkot, Passover.
Finally, somebody gets it, brothers and sisters. The biblical feasts are found in Leviticus 23rd chapter and include all of these here. You see, because finally, if these pagan days are not in the scriptures, and since you want to celebrate so many holidays, why don't we go back to Leviticus 23rd chapter and keep the Lord's holy days?
When I started to study more about the biblical feasts, I started to wonder why Christians are not observing them, and when these are things that actually point back to him being, the Passover lamb. Exactly. That points to him being the ultimate sacrificial lamb. What does Christmas tree and caroling have anything to do with him?
It's hard to be gentle and telling your kids the way you think that you should be doing things without saying and not having an explanation.
You should tell your children the truth. It's pagan. It's putting other gods before the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, before our God whom we serve. It's pagan. We shouldn't do it. It comes from paganism thrown inside of the church.
As to why your friends and family don't do the same thing. We don't want them to make them look bad at all. So, I think usually the only explanation is, well, we don't believe all the same things they do, and it just kind of, leave it at that, I guess.
It's a pagan ceremony through and through. There's absolutely nothing to do with the birth of Christ regarding Christmas. I know it sounds alarming.
You can have it both ways in deciding how pagan Christmas actually should be or can be viewed as being. On the one hand, it definitely was a time of year sacred to pagans all over Europe. On the other hand, the symbolism of the return of the Son and the birth of the Son of God is fairly self-evident too. And so you can, if you like, have a Christian concept of Christmas.
Well, I mean, as a historian, you must say, if you want to get rid of all Christian traditions that are not strictly speaking attested in the Bible, then you have to get rid of many, many things. I mean, Christianity has grown over centuries, and the whole package, what it means to be a Christian today, is shaped certainly by biblical traditions, but also by many other elements. So you would really, in terms of Christian feasts, you would have to get rid of many, many things, not just Christmas and
That's
liturgy and so on. That is one thing. The other thing is that I think it is important to bear in mind that Christmas is not attested in the Bible.
Well, sin is transgression against the law. And in his law, the Father does tell us do not worship me the way the pagans worship their God. Where we worship him as the way pagans worship their God when we were involved in the Christmas traditions.
We were doing all the same traditions.
The same traditions at the same time, too.
At the same time.
Yeah.
And we were saying that we were doing it for him.
Yeah, like we saw it as our part of our like Christian religion in a sense. So we were we were worshiping him.
We were thinking in order to be a Christian that how could we not celebrate his birth?
Yeah.
You know so it was a form of worship.
It was a form of worship. So
based on that criteria, then
I think we were sinning. I think we were in sin. Like obviously
do you see what's being said? You're forced to do it because you want to say that you believe in Jesus. You're forced to do it because shame on you if you don't celebrate the birth of Jesus. You follow me what I'm saying? So people are forced, and it's almost blasphemous if you teach the truth. It has nothing to do with the birth of Jesus. Let's keep going.
See, unknowingly, clearly.
So yeah, I would say that celebrating Christmas could definitely be
a sin.
Does it matter?
I think it does. You know why? Because you see, the reason why I think that even if someone could say, okay, prove to me that celebrating Christmas is not a sin, I think it still matters, because that is almost like me saying to my husband that as long as I don't commit adultery against you, that we're like there's no reason for you to divorce me. What kind of a marriage would that be? Don't I want to make him happy? Do I want to do what pleases him?
It's way bigger than whether it's a sin. It's a sad place that's where the discussion goes.
Yeah.
Oh well, it's not a sin, so I can do it. Oh well, it's not gonna cause my salvation. So therefore I can do it. It's like, where have we come? How did we get to this point that we just want to do the bare minimum? We say that.
I like the way they put it. I really do. I got to go back to it because I like the deductive reasoning and conclusions that these young ladies came to. They really came to the truth and they started keeping the feast days. But listen to the deductive reasoning and the conclusions that they came to. Listen to this again.
Then I think it still matters, because that is almost like me saying to my husband that as long as I don't commit adultery against you, that we're like there's no reason for you to divorce me. What kind of a marriage would that be? Don't I want to make him happy? Do I want to do what pleases him?
It's way bigger than whether it's a sin. It's a sad place that's where the discussion goes.
Yeah.
Oh well, it's not a sin, so I can do it. Oh well, it's not gonna cause my salvation. So therefore I can do it. It's like, where have we come? How did we get to this point that we just want to do the bare minimum? We say that it's all about him. We sing the songs that, I give myself away, but then we'll give ourselves until a certain limit. Oh, I'm not giving away my Christmas. I'm not giving away those traditions because it's not a sin. And I'm not going to lose my salvation. So, no, I'm not letting go of that. Then are you giving yourself away?
Of course he still loves you. What about loving him? You know what I mean? And honestly, thinking about it just breaks my heart. Like, what about loving him?
Very good question. Very good deductive conclusion. When you balance things out. What if? Because everybody says, I love the Lord, but are we keeping his commandments? Jesus says, as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you do show the Lord's death till he comes. So, those that, in regarding to this video, this was something that I put together using, what's the name of the program? Final Cut Pro. So took a couple of, about 3 different films, maybe 4, and cut segments to build a story. And that's what we did there. A few years ago we did that. But I just wanted to let you know that we have to hit this and hit this hard. Unapologetically, we got to hit it and hit it hard. All right? And we got to let people know where Christmas really came from. Because it didn't come from the Bible that we have, Genesis through Revelation. You won't find it. Not one single member, prophet, deacon, apostle, follower of Christ, anywhere in the Bible, you will not find where they celebrated the birth of Jesus. It's not in the scriptures. Well, I hope that you got something from this lesson tonight. Hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that at least we were able to give you, what you need from the scripture. And that's what it's about. Giving you what you need to teach and show others. Brothers and sisters, this is high time that this information has to come out. And we got more. Tomorrow night, there will be the Balm of Gilead radio show. Friday night, I think we'll be back, but if not, we'll be back the following week. Tune in this Sabbath at 1 o'clock p.m. We'll be bringing, yours truly will be bringing you the lesson. And brothers and sisters, we just got to keep this thing going. Shout out to Pastor Bowie, Senior Pastor. Shout out to him and all of my brothers and sisters throughout the Israel of God. This is Pastor Johnson, the Israel of God, right here, Bethel House of God affiliate. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of this broadcast. And we will see you. Same time, same channel tomorrow night right here on Bethel BHGTV. Here's some information regarding our phone app. If you're local, you'll need this because it's another way that we stay in contact with each other. And there's also going to be more information on the IOG app. And so you can download it and be able to get and listen to the lessons on demand. That being said, brothers and sisters, peace and blessings. We will see you tomorrow night. Let the words of your mouth, the meditation of your heart, let it be acceptable in His sight. Lord, be our strength and our Redeemer.